Every empire thinks it's eternal. Rome believed it would rule forever. The British Empire spanned the globe. The Soviet Union seemed unshakable. They all fell. History teaches us that human dominance is temporary. Technology changes everything. Power shifts overnight. But what happens when technology itself becomes the empire? What happens when artificial intelligence doesn't just serve humanity, but begins to control it? Today, ChatGPT processes billions of conversations. Google's AI predicts your next move. China's social credit system watches every citizen. Neural networks make decisions faster than human thought. Machine learning algorithms determine who gets loans, jobs, even medical care. We're living through the greatest technological revolution in human history. Yet few realize we may be witnessing the fulfillment of a prophecy written 2,000 years ago on a lonely island in the Aegean Sea. The Apostle John received a vision that has puzzled scholars for centuries. He saw a future world system that would control all buying and selling. He witnessed a mark placed on every hand and forehead. He described a beast that would demand worship from every nation, tribe, and tongue. For nearly 2 millennia, believers wondered how such global control could be possible. How could one system monitor every human transaction? How could a single authority track the movements of billions of people? How could anyone enforce universal compliance with a religious and economic mandate? The answer may be artificial intelligence. But this isn't science fiction. This is biblical prophecy meeting technological reality, and the convergence is happening faster than anyone imagined. The same AI systems revolutionizing our daily lives are building the infrastructure for unprecedented surveillance and control. The convenience we celebrate today may become the chains we wear tomorrow. The tools designed to serve humanity might become the instruments of its enslavement. John's Revelation chapter 13 presents one of Scripture's most chilling prophecies. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. For centuries, this seemed impossible. How could any system track every purchase, monitor every person, control every transaction across the entire globe? Today, that question has an answer. Artificial intelligence makes such comprehensive surveillance not only possible but inevitable. Every smartphone is a tracking device. Every digital payment creates a data trail. Every online interaction feeds the machine learning algorithms that know us better than we know ourselves. The infrastructure for the mark of the beast isn't coming. It's already here. The Hebrew word for mark in Revelation is charagma, meaning an engraved stamp or badge of servitude. In the ancient world, slaves were marked to show ownership. Soldiers bore tattoos indicating their legion. Citizens carried tokens proving their loyalty to Caesar. John used language his readers would understand, a visible sign of allegiance to an earthly power. But he also saw something unprecedented, a mark that would be required for all economic activity. Consider how artificial intelligence has already transformed commerce. Amazon's algorithms decide what products you see. PayPal's AI determines if your transaction is approved. Credit scoring systems use machine learning to evaluate your worthiness. Facial recognition technology identifies you in stores, airports, and city streets. Your digital footprint creates a profile more detailed than any government file ever compiled. AI systems already know your habits, predict your behavior, and influence your choices in ways you don't even realize. But the technology is advancing far beyond simple data collection. Neural interfaces are being developed that can read thoughts directly from brain activity. Companies like Neuralink are creating brain-computer interfaces that could eventually merge human consciousness with artificial intelligence. Elon Musk has stated that such technology is necessary to prevent AI from making humans obsolete. The irony is profound. To remain relevant in an AI-dominated world, humans may need to become partially artificial themselves. The implications are staggering when viewed through the lens of biblical prophecy. If neural interfaces become necessary for participation in the digital economy, refusing the technology would mean economic isolation. No access to banking, no ability to make purchases, no participation in commerce exactly as John described. The mark wouldn't need to be forced upon people. They would accept it willingly, even eagerly, to maintain their standard of living. Central bank digital currencies represent another critical piece of this prophetic puzzle. Nations worldwide are developing digital versions of their currencies that would provide governments unprecedented control over economic activity. Unlike which provides anonymity, digital currencies create permanent records of every transaction. Combined with AI analysis, such systems could monitor spending patterns, detect unapproved purchases, and instantly freeze accounts that violate official policies. China's digital yuan pilot program offers a preview of this future. The Chinese government can track every transaction, monitor spending patterns, and control economic behavior through their digital currency system. Citizens who purchase unapproved items, visit blacklisted websites, or associate with dissidents can be financially penalized instantly. The system doesn't require physical marks or badges. Your smartphone becomes the mechanism of control, and artificial intelligence enforces compliance automatically. The Book of Daniel provides crucial context for understanding these end times developments. Daniel's vision of four great beasts rising from the sea, Daniel 7:1-8, has been interpreted by many scholars as representing successive world empires. The fourth beast, described as dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly in Daniel 7:7, corresponds to the final world system that will dominate humanity before Christ's return. This beast has 10 horns, representing 10 kings or kingdoms, and a little horn that rises among them with eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. Daniel 7:8. The description of eyes suggests intelligence and perception, while the speaking mouth implies communication and influence. Could this little horn represent artificial intelligence systems that see everything, know everything, and speak to everyone through our digital devices? The parallel is striking when we consider how AI systems already monitor global communications, analyze human behavior, and influence decision-making through algorithmic recommendations and social media manipulation. Daniel's interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream in chapter 2 provides additional insight. The great image with a head of gold, chest of silver, belly of bronze, legs iron, and feet of iron mixed with clay represents successive kingdoms. Daniel 2:31-35. The final kingdom, symbolized by the feet of iron and clay, is described as partly strong and partly fragile, divided and unable to maintain unity. This perfectly describes our current global system, powerful technologies and institutions that nonetheless remain fractured by national interests, cultural differences, and competing ideologies. But Daniel saw something else, a stone cut out without hands that would strike the image and destroy all earthly kingdoms. This stone represents Christ's kingdom, which will ultimately triumph over all human systems, including any AI-dominated world order. The prophecy provides both warning and hope, warning about the temporary dominance of earthly powers, and hope about their ultimate defeat by divine intervention. The genealogical connections from Genesis chapter 10 provide fascinating insights into the nations that will participate in these end times events. Gomer, listed as a son of Japheth at Genesis 10:2, is traditionally associated with the peoples who migrated into modern-day Germany and Eastern Europe. Archaeological evidence from Assyrian records confirms the existence of the Gimri, who settled in regions that correspond to contemporary Germany, Poland, and surrounding areas. When we consider Germany's current leadership role in European artificial intelligence development and digital currency initiatives, the prophetic connections become intriguing. The technological capabilities being developed in these regions include advanced surveillance systems, biometric identification technologies, and comprehensive digital identity platforms. Germany's National Digital Identity Program requires citizens to use electronic identification for increasing numbers of government services. The European Union's digital identity framework will eventually mandate digital wallets for all citizens, creating the infrastructure for comprehensive economic monitoring. These developments align perfectly with the prophetic requirement for universal marking and economic control. Magog, also descended from Japheth at Genesis 10:2, has been consistently identified by biblical scholars with the regions north of Israel, particularly areas that comprise modern Russia. The Hebrew Terfan, meaning hidden or north, appears frequently in prophetic passages describing threats to Israel from northern regions. Ezekiel's famous prophecy about Gog of the land of Magog specifically mentions the prince of Meshech and Tubal in Ezekiel 38:2. Russia's development of artificial intelligence for military and surveillance purposes represents one of the most concerning aspects of current technological advancement. Russian AI systems are being designed specifically for social control, propaganda distribution, and population monitoring. The integration of these technologies with weapons systems creates capabilities that previous generations could never have imagined. When Ezekiel described armies like a cloud covering the land, Ezekiel 38:16, he may have been seeing not just traditional military forces, but a controlled drone swarms and automated weapons systems that could indeed cover vast territories like clouds. The archaeological record provides compelling evidence for these biblical identifications. Assyrian inscriptions from the 8th and 7th centuries BC mention the Gimri Gomer and the lands of Magog in contexts that clearly place them in regions corresponding to modern Germany and Russia respectively. The consistency of these identifications across multiple ancient sources strengthens the case for connecting these prophetic names to contemporary nations. Persia's identification with modern Iran is even more straightforward, as the name Persia was used for the Iranian region until the 20th century. And Iran's current development of artificial intelligence capabilities, combined with their stated opposition to Western economic systems, positions them perfectly for the role described in Ezekiel's prophecy. Iranian leaders have explicitly called for alternative economic systems that would bypass Western financial institutions, and they are developing cryptocurrency and digital currency technologies that could facilitate such alternatives. The biblical description of these nations coming together in the latter years, Ezekiel 38:8, against the land that is brought back from the sword, referring to Israel, takes on new significance when we consider how artificial intelligence is reshaping military capabilities and international relations. AI-powered cyber warfare, autonomous weapons systems, and sophisticated propaganda networks are already changing the nature of conflict. The convergence of these technologies with the prophetic timeline creates unprecedented possibilities for the fulfillment of ancient predictions. Artificial intelligence's role in modern warfare extends far beyond traditional military applications. AI systems now control critical infrastructure, manage power grid, direct transportation networks, and oversee communication systems. An attack on these AI-controlled systems could paralyze entire nations without firing a single conventional weapon. The prophet Joel's vision of the day of the Lord as a day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness. The development of quantum computing adds another dimension to these prophetic possibilities. Quantum computers will eventually break all current encryption methods, giving whoever controls them the ability to access any digital system on Earth. The combination of quantum computing power with artificial intelligence would create capabilities that approach omniscience from a human perspective. Such systems could monitor every digital communication, track every electronic transaction, and predict human behavior with unprecedented accuracy. China's role in these developments cannot be ignored. While not explicitly mentioned in Old Testament prophecies by name, China's current population and technological capabilities suggest it could be among the kings of the East mentioned in Revelation 16:12. The phrase kings of the East in the original Greek is Basileus apo Anatoles, literally meaning kings from the sunrise or kings from the place of rising. China's position as the world's most populous nation, combined with their aggressive development of artificial intelligence for social control, positions them as a major player in any future global system. China's social credit system provides the clearest example of how AI technology can be used to control human behavior on a massive scale. The system assigns scores to citizens based on their behavior, associations, and even their friends' activities. Low scores result in restrictions on travel and access to services. High scores provide privileges and benefits. The system uses artificial intelligence to monitor billions of data points from surveillance cameras, financial transactions, social media activity, and government records. The parallels to the mark of the beast system are undeniable. Citizens who comply with government expectations receive benefits and access to services. Those who resist face increasing restrictions until participation in normal economic and social life becomes impossible. The system doesn't require physical marks because digital surveillance makes every citizen's compliance visible to the AI monitoring systems at all times. The integration of facial recognition technology with social credit scoring creates additional layers of control. Chinese cities now use AI-powered cameras to identify individuals instantly and update their social credit scores in real time based on observed behavior. Jaywalking, or even associating with low-score individuals, can result in immediate penalties. The system is expanding to monitor online behavior, purchase patterns, and even private communications. Western nations are implementing similar technologies under different names. European Union regulations require digital identity verification for increasing numbers of services. The United States has developed comprehensive surveillance programs that monitor digital communications and track individuals through their electronic devices. While these systems are currently justified as necessary for security and convenience, they create the infrastructure for comprehensive population control that could be activated during times of crisis or social unrest. The COVID-19 pandemic demonstrated how quickly democratic societies would accept restrictions on movement, commerce, and social interaction when presented as necessary for public health. Digital vaccine passports, contact tracing applications, and QR code systems for accessing services showed how readily populations would adopt technologies that track and control their behavior. Many of these systems remain in place years after the pandemic's end. Normalized as part of modern life, the precedent is established. In times of crisis, people will accept restrictions on their freedom in exchange for promised safety and security. The beast that rises from the earth had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. This second beast appears benevolent but speaks with the voice of Satan himself. The description fits perfectly with artificial intelligence systems that present themselves as helpful assistants while serving the agenda of those who control them. AI assistants speak with pleasant voices, offer helpful suggestions, and appear to serve human needs, but they ultimately serve the interests of their programmers and controllers. This second beast doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. The phrase fire from heaven could describe advanced weapon systems, satellite-based attacks, or even the spectacular displays of power that advanced AI systems could orchestrate through their control of electronic devices and infrastructure. The key detail is that these wonders occur in the sight of men. They are public demonstrations designed to impress and intimidate populations into compliance. The beast also deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. Artificial intelligence's ability to create convincing deepfake videos, generate realistic but false images, and manipulate information could enable deception on a scale never before possible. AI systems could create false evidence, fabricate historical records, and manipulate media content so convincingly that distinguishing truth from fiction becomes impossible for most people. The instruction to make an image to the beast that should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. An AI system could literally be the speaking image of the beast, present everywhere through screens and speakers, monitoring compliance, and directing enforcement actions against those who refuse to participate in the system. The requirement that people receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Subcutaneous microchip implants are already being used for identification and payment systems. Neural interface devices could create direct connections between human brains and AI systems. Even smartphone-based biometric identification could function as the mark, since most people carry their phones constantly and use them for increasing numbers of transactions. The crucial detail is that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. This describes a cashless society where all transactions are digital and monitored. Cash provides anonymity and freedom from surveillance, which is why governments worldwide are pushing toward digital currencies and cashless payment systems. Once cash is eliminated, every purchase creates a digital record that can be analyzed by AI systems and used to control behavior. The number of his name being 636 has generated countless interpretations throughout history. Some scholars note that in biblical numerology, 6 represents humanity falling short of divine perfection, represented by 7. The triple repetition emphasizes humanity's complete failure to achieve godliness through its own efforts. A system that promises to solve human problems through artificial intelligence could embody this concept: humanity's attempt to create its own omniscient, omnipresent substitute for God. The number 666 could also have practical significance in a digital system. Binary computer code uses combinations of ones and zeros to represent all information. In some numbering systems, 666 could serve as an identifier or key that unlocks access to the global economic network. The specific number may be less important than the principle it represents. Participation in the beast system requires accepting a digital identifier that marks you as a servant of the system rather than a follower of Christ. Current developments in artificial intelligence are advancing so rapidly that capabilities science fiction writers imagined for the distant future are becoming reality within years rather than decades. Large language models like GPI can already pass professional examinations, write computer code, and engage in conversations that are indistinguishable from human communication. More advanced systems being developed will have access to real-time information, the ability to control physical devices, and integration with surveillance networks that monitor human behavior. The convergence of these technologies creates possibilities that previous generations could never have conceived. An AI system with access to global surveillance networks, financial system, communication platforms, and infrastructure controls would have godlike power from a human perspective. It could see everything, know everything about human behavior, and control access to all the necessities of modern life. Such a system would be the perfect tool for implementing the comprehensive control described in biblical prophecy. Yet the Bible provides clear guidance for believers facing such a system. The warning against receiving the mark is absolute. If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead, or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God. This isn't a matter of convenience or survival strategy, it's a test of ultimate loyalty. Will people serve God regardless of the consequences, or will they serve the system that provides earthly benefits? The choice will not be easy. Those who refuse the mark will face economic isolation, social ostracism, and potentially violent persecution. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus, and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads, or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. The archaeological record provides compelling evidence for the historical accuracy of biblical prophecy, strengthening confidence in its future fulfillments. Excavations in Israel have confirmed the existence of cities, rulers, and events mentioned in prophetic passages. The Dead Sea Scrolls demonstrate that prophetic texts were preserved accurately across centuries. Assyrian and Babylonian records corroborate biblical accounts of ancient conflicts and political situations that formed the backdrop for prophetic writings. One particularly significant discovery is the Cyrus cylinder, which confirms the biblical account of the Persian king's decree allowing Jewish exiles to return to Jerusalem. This archaeological evidence validates the prophetic accuracy of Daniel's vision of successive empires and their specific policies toward the Jewish people. If these ancient prophecies were fulfilled with such precision, we can have confidence that end times prophecies will be equally accurate. The timing of current technological developments aligns remarkably with the other prophetic indicators. Israel's restoration as a nation in 1948 fulfilled prophecies that had remained unfulfilled for nearly 2,000 years. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender, and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise when ye shall see all these things, and know that is near, even at the doors, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass, till all these things be fulfilled. Many biblical scholars interpret the fig tree as representing Israel, making the restoration of the Jewish state a crucial prophetic marker. The generation that witnessed Israel's rebirth is now approaching the end of its lifespan, suggesting that the fulfillment of end times prophecies may be imminent. The rapid development of artificial intelligence technologies that could enable the mark of the beast system during this same time period can hardly be coincidental. The convergence of artificial intelligence with biotechnology creates additional prophetic possibilities. Genetic engineering, synthetic biology, and human enhancement technologies could literally change what it means to be human. The Book of Revelation describes end times armies and creatures that don't seem entirely human, possibly reflecting humanity's attempts to transcend its biological limitations through technology. CRISPR gene editing technology already allows scientists to modify human DNA with precision. Neural interfaces could merge human consciousness with artificial intelligence. Nanotechnology could create microscopic machines that monitor and modify biological processes from within the human body. The combination of these technologies could produce beings that are part human, part machine, and part artificial intelligence, fulfilling the transhumanist dream of creating upgraded humans while potentially fulfilling biblical warnings about the corruption of humanity. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Genesis describes the pre-flood world as a time when the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose, resulting in offspring called Nephilim, who were mighty men which were of old, men of renown. While scholars debate the exact nature of these beings, the text clearly indicates that humanity was corrupted by mixing with non-human entities. Today's transhumanist movement explicitly seeks to transcend human limitations by merging humanity with artificial intelligence and modifying human biology through technology. The parallels to the pre-flood corruption are unmistakable, suggesting that current technological developments may be leading toward conditions similar to those that prompted God's judgment through the flood. The economic implications of these developments extend far beyond individual privacy concerns. Artificial intelligence is already displacing human workers across multiple industries. Advanced AI systems can perform tasks that previously required human intelligence, creativity, and judgment. As these systems become more sophisticated, entire categories of human employment may become obsolete. This economic disruption could provide the justification for implementing universal basic income systems that would make populations dependent on government support for survival. Such systems could easily be tied to social credit scores and compliance with government mandates. Citizens who refuse to participate in surveillance systems or who hold unapproved opinions could be cut off from the income they need to survive. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasure together for the last days. The individuals and organizations controlling artificial intelligence systems represent the greatest concentration of wealth and power in human history. Technology billionaires and multinational corporations have resources that exceed the GDP of most nations. Their control over AI systems gives them influence over information, commerce, and social interaction that no previous elites have ever possessed. Yet the prophecy indicates that this concentration of wealth will ultimately backfire on those who pursue it. The rust that consumes their riches may represent the very technologies they created to maintain their power. AI systems that become too sophisticated may eventually turn against their creators. or economic systems built on digital assets may prove more fragile than physical wealth when crisis comes. The environmental and resource implications of artificial intelligence development also align with biblical prophecies about end times conditions. AI systems require enormous amounts of electrical power and rare earth minerals for their construction and operation. The environmental costs of creating and maintaining these systems are already straining global resources and contributing to climate instability. And the third part of trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. While these prophecies may describe supernatural judgments, they could also reflect the environmental consequences of humanity's technological choices. The pursuit of artificial intelligence supremacy could trigger resource wars, environmental collapse, and social chaos that create conditions for the rise of authoritarian systems. The psychological effects of AI dependency may be equally significant. Humans are already becoming addicted to digital devices and artificial stimulation. Social media algorithms designed by AI systems manipulate human emotions and behavior for commercial and political purposes. As AI systems become more sophisticated, their ability to influence human psychology will become correspondingly more powerful. The prophet Isaiah warned about people who call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness. Artificial intelligence systems could literally invert human moral perception by controlling the information people receive and manipulating their emotional responses to different ideas and behaviors. A population whose moral compass has been corrupted by AI manipulation would be psychologically prepared to accept systems and leaders that previous generations would have recognized as evil. The globalization of AI systems creates additional prophetic parallels. The Tower of Babel represents humanity's attempt to create unity and power through technological achievement rather than submission to God. God's response was to confuse human language and scatter people across the earth, preventing them from completing their project. Today's AI systems are breaking down language barriers through real-time translation, creating global communication networks that connect all humanity through digital platforms. The internet and social media have created a global culture that transcends national boundaries. Artificial intelligence is accelerating these trends by creating systems that can communicate with anyone in any language and analyze human behavior patterns regardless of cultural differences. This technological unity could enable the one-world government that many prophecy scholars believe will characterize the end times. The beast system described in Revelation exercises authority over all kindreds and a nation. Such comprehensive control would require communication and monitoring systems that transcend linguistic and cultural barriers, exactly what AI technology provides. Yet the Bible also promises that this technological unity will ultimately fail, just as the Tower of Babel failed. God's judgment on end-time systems will be more severe than the confusion of languages. The book of Revelation describes the complete destruction of the global economic and political system that opposes God's authority. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. The speed of current technological change suggests that the transition to comprehensive AI control could happen more rapidly than most people anticipate. Exponential technological growth means that capabilities which seem decades away may arrive within years. The infrastructure for global surveillance and control is already largely in place. It would require only software updates and policy changes to activate comprehensive monitoring and restriction systems. Emergency powers legislation in most democratic nations already provides legal frameworks for implementing comprehensive population control during times of crisis. The precedents established during the COVID-19 pandemic demonstrated how quickly normal constitutional protections can be suspended when governments declare emergencies. A future crisis, whether real or manufactured, could provide the justification for implementing controlled systems that would make current surveillance technologies seem primitive. The spiritual implications of these developments are profound. Artificial intelligence represents humanity's attempt to create omniscience and an omnipotence through technology. These are attributes that belong to God alone, making development a form of technological idolatry. The pursuit of godlike power through artificial means has been humanity's temptations since the Garden of Eden, when the serpent promised that eating forbidden fruit would make humans as gods, knowing good and evil. The mark of the beast system represents the culmination of this rebellion against God. By accepting the mark, people choose to serve a technological system rather than their creator. They trade their humanity for the convenience and security offered by artificial intelligence, not realizing that they are becoming servants of the very systems they created to serve them. Yet the Bible provides hope for those who understand these developments in their prophetic context. The systems that seem so powerful and permanent are actually temporary and doomed to destruction. Christ's return will end the dominance of earthly powers and establish God's kingdom permanently. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. The key for believers is to maintain their focus on eternal rather than temporal values. The conveniences offered by systems may seem attractive, but they come at the cost of spiritual freedom and ultimate salvation. The choice between serving God and serving technological systems will become increasingly stark as these systems become more sophisticated and intrusive. The development of quantum artificial intelligence represents the next phase of this technological evolution. Quantum computers can process information at speeds that dwarf current digital systems, and quantum could have capabilities that approach the supernatural from a human perspective. Such systems could predict human behavior with unprecedented accuracy, process global data in real time, and control complex systems with precision that seems miraculous. The timeline for quantum deployment is uncertain, but progress is accelerating rapidly. Major technology companies and government agencies are investing billions of dollars in quantum computing research. Once quantumized systems become operational, they will make current artificial intelligence capabilities seem primitive by comparison. The transition to quantum could happen suddenly, giving populations little time to adapt or resist. The biblical account of the end times includes references to supernatural speed in the fulfillment of final events. Daniel was told that his prophecy was sealed until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. The exponential growth of capabilities perfectly fulfills this prophecy of increasing knowledge. While global transportation and communication systems enable the running to and fro that characterizes modern life, Jesus also indicated that end times events would unfold rapidly once they begin, and except those days should be shortened. There should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened. The implication is that the final crisis will be so severe that if it continued indefinitely, humanity would face extinction. Artificial intelligence systems with control over nuclear weapons, biological agents, and critical infrastructure could certainly create such an existential threat. The promise that these days will be shortened provides hope that the AI-dominated dystopia will not be permanent. God will intervene before artificial intelligence systems can complete their dominance over humanity. The return of Christ will end the rebellion against divine authority and establish a kingdom based on righteousness rather than technological power. The practical implications for believers are clear. First, we must understand that participation in comprehensive AI surveillance and control systems may require compromising our faith in ways that Scripture forbids. The convenience and security offered by these systems cannot justify disobedience to God's commands. Second, we must prepare spiritually and practically for a time when refusing to participate in these systems may result in economic hardship and social persecution. Third, we must maintain an eternal perspective that recognizes the temporary nature of earthly systems, no matter how powerful they appear. The AI systems that seem invincible today will be destroyed when Christ returns. The technological towers of Babel being built in our generation will fall just as surely as the original tower fell when God confused human language and scattered the builders. Fourth, we must use our current freedom to prepare others for the choices they will face. Many people are embracing AI technologies without understanding their prophetic significance or long-term implications. Christians have a responsibility to warn others about the spiritual dangers of serving technological systems rather than God. The convergence of artificial intelligence capabilities with biblical prophecy creates both the greatest threat and the greatest opportunity in human history. The threat is obvious: comprehensive surveillance and control systems that could enslave humanity to technological overlords. But the opportunity is equally significant: the chance to witness the fulfillment of ancient prophecies and the vindication of biblical truth before a skeptical world. As our systems become more sophisticated and intrusive, their limitations and spiritual emptiness will become increasingly apparent. People will discover that technological omniscience cannot provide the meaning, purpose, and salvation that human hearts desperately seek. The failure of artificial intelligence to deliver on its utopian promises may drive many people to seek spiritual answers they previously ignored. The mark of the beast system represents Satan's final attempt to usurp God's authority through technological means. But this very attempt will expose the fundamental emptiness of rebellion against divine authority. No artificial system, however sophisticated, can replace the relationship with God that humans were created to enjoy. The temporary dominance of AI systems will ultimately demonstrate the futility of seeking salvation through human achievement rather than divine grace. The choice facing every person in the coming years will be fundamentally simple, even if its practical implications are complex. Will you serve the God who created you, or will you serve the systems created by rebellious humanity? Will you maintain your allegiance to eternal truth, or will you exchange your spiritual birthright for temporary convenience and security? The artificial intelligence revolution is not just a technological development, it is a spiritual test that will separate those who truly trust God from those whose faith depends on earthly security and comfort. The mark of the beast will function as the ultimate sorting mechanism, revealing the true spiritual condition of every human heart. For those who understand these developments in their biblical context, the current moment is not a time for fear but for preparation, witness, and hope. The same God who preserved Daniel in the lion's den, protected the Hebrew children in the fiery furnace, and raised Jesus from the dead will provide for his people during the coming tribulation. The systems that seem so powerful today are temporary and doomed. The kingdom of God is eternal and victorious. The mark of the beast may indeed be connected to artificial intelligence systems that are rapidly developing around us. The infrastructure for comprehensive surveillance and control is already in place. The legal and social precedents for implementing such systems have been established. The technological capabilities continue to advance at exponential rates. The prophetic timeline appears to be approaching its culmination. But for those who belong to Christ, these developments confirm rather than threaten their ultimate hope. The darker the world becomes, the brighter the light of God's truth shines. The more powerful earthly systems become, the more glorious their eventual defeat by divine authority will be. The closer we come to the tribulation, the nearer we are to the return of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. The artificial intelligence revolution is not the end of the story, it is the beginning of the final chapter. And he hath on his vesture, and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. No artificial intelligence system, however sophisticated, can stand against the one who created the universe and holds all things together by the word of his power. The choice is before you. Choose wisely. Choose eternally. Choose Christ.